week here, trying to get us through the bye weekend and a little college football and some decent football all day Sunday, but we're back after it in a game that matters, and it matters a lot on both sides of Breezewood at this point. We'll be spending a little time with Yins and Nat up on the mountain. This guy covers all things Steelers for Root Sports in Pittsburgh. We welcome back one of our defending black and gold champions, Rob King of Root Sports in Pittsburgh. What's going on, man? Roethlisberger, is he going to Willis Reed us this week? I mean, Coach Billick called him a diva earlier this week. Hard to disagree with that, but I bet that SOB will show up at 1 o'clock on Sunday ready to play.
Well, if he does, it gives the Steelers a better chance to win. We'll see. He's not the only guy that they're trying to nurse through practice and get onto the field. And I know Baltimore's in the same situation. Look, this is a huge game. This is the first time, Nestor, I just read this, in 4 years that these two teams will be playing for first place, which I think is kind of cool, and it's surprising because it always seems like it's a big game. Ben will do what he can to get on the field. They may decide he needs one more week and go with Landry Jones, and we'll find out in a couple days.
How's Landry Jones worked out? I mean, what changes fundamentally other than you got a Hall of Famer that can tap dance his way and, throw off 225-pound safeties coming in on him because he's big?
Yeah, it's not only the size, but it's, Ben's got the entire offense at his disposal. Prior to the bye week, when they knew Landry Jones was going to start in that last game, the game against New England, Mike Tomlin said, look, we're going to spend all week in practice figuring out what Landry Jones is most comfortable with. They already know what Ben Roethlisberger is most comfortable with, and they can play call accordingly. And he does such a great job, has a great rapport with Antonio Brown. Landry Jones seemed to go out of his way to get Brown more touches last week. But, look, Ben Roethlisberger, when you get him out of the lineup, it's a huge drop-off no matter who comes in. This side of Jimmy Garoppolo, I don't know if too many subs who can come in and win big ball games for you by themselves. They need help around him, and he's going to need help around him on Sunday.
Well, and help around him would be a running game, right? And no matter who plays, both these teams are going to try to run the football. The Ravens have at points failed to run, at other points failed to run well. And this seems to be a little bit of a plague throughout the league. And, as you guys found a couple weeks ago, the Dolphins run the ball well. They can beat the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, and when you say help around, let's quickly get back to that. The defense needs to be better, too. Defense has not been very good the last couple of weeks. Tom Brady had a couple third-down drops, or he would have put up huge numbers against the Steelers, put up pretty big numbers as it was. They really were no threat to stop the Patriots, and they didn't stop Miami, and we've seen them not stop Philadelphia. I agree with you, Nestor. Look, I thought in that game against Miami, I'm not a guy that normally questions a lot of play calling, but I thought it was kind of mystifying that they just went away from Le'Veon Bell, I thought, way too early. When you got a guy like that, who I think is the best running back in the league, and he only gets 10 carries in a game, something's wrong. And it just looks to me, I haven't seen, obviously, Baltimore as much as you, but it seems like, they got Terrence West. He's been putting up good numbers, and then sometimes you'll see games where he has 12 carries, and you're wondering, why isn't this guy getting 20 or 25 carries? It'll be interesting to see if there's a throwback. Sometimes these teams seem to play throwback games. Maybe we'll see 25 carries for Bell and 20-plus carries for West.
Maybe it's a little weird in my mind because they've played so well the first couple of games against bad competition, and I don't know that the Bills are really bad competition, but, you beat who they lay out. It was the Bills, it was Cleveland, it was Jacksonville. It was what it was, and they haven't lost these games, in getting slobber knocked. Like the way Steelers got pushed around by the Eagles, Steelers got pushed around by the Patriots. The Ravens haven't been pushed around by anybody yet, not in that fashion, and certainly with these two games coming, but it almost feels like after the bye week, if the Ravens get 4 or 5 or 6 of these guys back, and that's possible. They played the last month without Yanda, without Steve Smith, the last 2 weeks without Suggs, without Mosley the last 3 weeks. There have been a lot of issues without Stanley for a month. So if they get all of those guys back this week, and it appears as though they might, this starts to feel like a second chance in life because no one's 6-2. No one's going to win 12 games in this division. Quite frankly, 9 games may actually win the division before it's all over with. But if for the Ravens, this has to be one of them. And if the Steelers are going to win 10 or 11, this has to be one of them because both of these teams have some tougher games coming up later on in the year.
I agree wholeheartedly on everything you said. And, It's interesting. I think it was Grantland Rice describing a team, said they'd overwhelmed X amount of opponents, underwhelmed, and that's what the Steelers have done. They've overwhelmed 4 opponents, looked great, looked like world beaters. Underwhelmed 3. They've looked terrible in those 3 losses. I mean, they've just been completely overwhelmed with underwhelming performances. Unlike Cincinnati, they've whelmed nobody at this point. But you're right. I mean, there's and the Ravens have been in every game. But you also have to point out, so 4 narrow losses, but also 3 narrow victories. So this is a team that's kind of been living on the edge. I do agree with you, though. When you start taking out key personnel, a lot of times the NFL is who's healthiest. You start taking out those personnel, and you take 2 or 3 key guys out, and the Steelers have had their injuries too, and all of a sudden, that 3-point win maybe becomes a 3-point loss. So, look, the Ravens coming back, being healthy, we know they were decimated by injuries a year ago. They're a formidable opponent. I don't think anybody thinks they're not a formidable opponent. If Ben Roethlisberger is playing for the Steelers, I like the Steelers' chances, although they've also had their struggles on the road. I mean, 2 of their 3 blowout losses have been on the road. So, it's this is about the time, I think, Nestor, where you begin to really get a feel for how good a team is. But in the AFC North right now, other than knowing the Browns aren't good, I'm not sure how good the other 3 teams or how bad the other 3 teams are.
Rob King is here from Root Sports up in Pittsburgh. Yins are coming down the mountain to take on the Ravens at 1 o'clock on Sunday in a game that will be defining, I think, on both sides of this battle. And I've seen the Steelers play well, and I've seen them play poorly this year. Run me through some of these guys. I mean, I know there's been injuries on your side of the fence, too. I mean, Shazier. I mean, key things. I mean, obviously the offseason shenanigans that cost Brian a chance to get onto the field, as well. That's not a good look, and Le'Veon Bell had his issues earlier in the year. Now it's about health, but there is a perception that when you get everyone on the field, you're going to be a good football team. But still, the back end of that secondary against teams that can throw the ball a little bit, and especially on a day if they're not getting a pass rush, I see the Steelers as takeable by the quarterbacks like Dalton and Flacco at this point.
Yeah, I would agree, especially defensively. I think it's a Steelers team that needs to outscore a lot of people. They didn't have Marcus Gilbert, their outstanding right tackle, the last couple of weeks. They're certainly hoping he'll be back, working his way through practice this week. Look, Ladarius Green was signed after they lost Martavis Bryant at tight end position. He hasn't played all year. He's a guy they think can stretch the field. Is it possible he'll be back to help that offense? And obviously the biggest one is Roethlisberger. If he's in there, it's an offense very capable of scoring 30 points a game. If he's not in there, it's a completely different feel to that offense. And defensively, they've been without 2 of their 2, unquestionably, their 2 top defensive players. And those guys have a trickle-down effect. Ryan Shazier is a guy who can take away a lot in the middle of the field at the middle linebacker position, one of those 2 middle linebackers in the 3-4. And Cameron Hayward is just the heart and soul of the team, the kind of guy that's capable of getting some push in the pass. Without him, they really have nothing. When he's in there, nothing in the way of pass rush. When he's in there, it makes Tuitt better on the other side. And they've had a lot of injuries in the secondary. They're relying on some younger guys, and they've gotten nothing out of their pass rush. But again, injuries there have hurt them as well. I don't know if their first-round pick from a year ago is coming back this week, but Jarvis Jones, a first-round pick a couple years ago on the other side, hasn't been effective. So it's hard to imagine the Steelers' defense really stopping a really good offense. 1, because of injury, and 2, just because some key personnel haven't performed or have been hurt all year. And mostly it's just the key personnel is not experienced. It's young. They've got some ability there, but they're probably a year away from being any kind of defense that's going to worry a top offense.
It's amazing. You talk about Shazier, we would talk about Mosley. You talk about Hayward, we would talk about Suggs and Doomerville. You talk about Marcus Gilbert. Let us tell you about Marshall Yanda and Ronnie Stanley. I mean, it's been a sick little run, but, I mean, the fans don't understand that, and they hear next man up. But you can't go next man up 6, 7, 8 positions deep with 30-plus aging Pro Bowlers, but guys that are special and guys that are making 9, 10, 12, $15 million a year. You just don't replace that with a 4th-round draft pick rookie.
And the Steelers replaced some of it and performed well, and then it became too much. And look, look at the Dolphins the last couple of weeks. I mean, there was a team where they're talking about, prior to the game against the Steelers, they have to rebuild again. They got to blow it all up, and everyone's getting impatient. And it's a first-year head coach. But, man, they had like 6 key guys, including 4 along their offensive line, where they'd spent, top picks. And they're, boy, why isn't this team playing well? Well, because you invest first-round picks and big contracts in players, and when they're not there, it leaves a void.
Yeah, they drafted the guy with the gas mask that we were going to take. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, right. I mean, they've got, so every team's got ability, and a lot of it, like I said earlier, a lot of it is a question of who's healthy at the right time, and it's hard for me, Nestor, not to think of this game, and if you're looking for another little underlying factor in favor of Baltimore, no Roethlisberger, perhaps. Steelers on the road where they haven't been nearly as good. Also, the fact that I just think this game is more important to the Ravens. If the Steelers lose this game, they're 4-4. Ben Roethlisberger coming back. I think they're still going to feel, okay, we're in a decent spot. Boy, the Ravens lose this game, you drop to 3-5. You're 2 games behind the Steelers. You got Cincinnati wedged in between you. I don't know. I just think this is a much, much bigger game for the Ravens than it is for the Steelers. And you know how it is. If it's a close game, that could be a deciding factor.
I would say at this point, when we saw the schedule, we understood the back end of the schedule was going to be loaded with a trip to New England and Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. No one saw that a trip to Dallas would be treacherous with Dak Prescott. We got that coming up. No one saw that Philadelphia coming in would be a team that's probably going to be 3-4 games over 500 by the time they get here in December. I mean, there really is no rest for the Ravens in this schedule beyond that Cleveland game that's going to come on 3 days of rest. And to your point, psychologically, it's either going to be them with a piece of first place or with their tail between their legs, because this isn't going to be easy for the Ravens at all. People are talking about winning 10 games. They'd have to go 7-2 the rest of the way. I don't know how that happens given this sort of guillotine schedule that they have coming up. But all that being said, getting guys back and winning this game makes the Ravens participate in the season. I think if they lose, this goes down the ugly road kind of early and often, because you can't make this game up. And I don't think Cincinnati's a factor, Rob. I mean, I'm blown away. I sat and watched them play for 4 hours, on Sunday morning and Monday afternoon, and other than the kids shanking a kick, they'd be 3-5 right now, and they look like a different team. I mean, there's a few teams, Seattle, Arizona, certainly Carolina, that really you look at them and you're like, that doesn't look like last year's team at all.
No, and that's why, and it's one of the great things about the NFL. Look, the Ravens had one first Super Bowl, right? What were they the year before? 4-12 or 5-11, and right around that same era, the Rams did the same thing, went from worst to first, and won a Super Bowl. You never know when teams are going to fall off a cliff. You never know when teams are going to, start to put it all together. I will say this, you mentioned all those good teams. I don't see any reason why those teams would be fading. I thought Cincinnati might fade last year. Maybe I was a year early, just because I think when you keep knocking on the door and keep having your fingers, slammed shut, I think it wears on a team mentally. Maybe that's a little bit of what's going on with Cincinnati right now. I didn't see Philadelphia coming. No way. And I think a lot of people, when they decided, hey, Carson Wentz is going to be our quarterback, they started thinking about mailing it in and getting another top draft pick next year, and they put a whooping on the Steelers, and they've been very, very effective. So you never know, right? And like I said, sometimes it's when you play a team. The Dolphins coming back, their season, any chance of climbing back into the season on the line, must-win game. Everybody gets healthy, and they take it to the Steelers. So there's just so much parity. There's so many factors like home, away, health, importance of the game. Some of those things to me are in the Ravens' favor this week.
One thing we can always count on and always agree on, we always know Cleveland's going to suck, but this is, look, they might have a parade by the end of the week, right? And I certainly hope they do. I'm rooting against the Cubs, so, I'm fine with Cleveland winning. I'm not a Cleveland hater at all, but the football team, I mean, you're now to the point where they might put up a goose egg. I mean, no one wants to be the team that loses to them, and certainly the Ravens are going to have them on short rest next Thursday as well.
Yeah, and Well, look, this is kind of like a fulcrum game, right, for the Ravens. If they win this game, now you're 4-4. You're brimming with confidence. Short rest or no short rest, you're ready for Cleveland. You're thinking 5-4, and all of a sudden, instead of having to go 7-2 down the stretch to get to 10, have a more manageable 5-2 down the stretch. This is the game. There's pivotal moments throughout the course of a season, and I think this game is a pivotal game for the Ravens. Like I said, I think that the Steelers could overcome a loss here. I think if the Ravens lose, like you said, 3-5 could be trouble. You win, you got a bad Cleveland team coming up, and you could be 5-4, and no matter what the Steelers do the next week, you're still in first place. More than halfway through the season. So, again, look, for everything we hear about, they're taking it one game at a time, the players aren't dumb. They know what's going on. They've looked ahead. They see the schedule. They know how important this game is.
And you guys got a lot of games on the road, man. 5 of the next 7 on the road for the Steelers.
Yep.
Dallas at home and the Giants at home. But other than that, you guys are going to go, do it on the road. Doing it in Buffalo in the middle of December, in Cincinnati, Indianapolis. You get a little dome action there, Thanksgiving time. But it's not an easy schedule for anyone. I'd put the Ravens up against anybody, though. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to Dallas and New England and seeing Philadelphia, let alone with 4 games left with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh at this point. The odds are stacked against the Ravens, but to your point, it becomes a season. And I think much like we see the baseball managers manage the 6th inning as though it's the 9th inning right now, you're going to see that happen, I think, with the Ravens the next 2 weeks, because this really is the season.
I agree. And as far as the Steelers are concerned, look, do you think anybody in New England's quaking in their boots when the Patriots have to go anywhere on the road? No, because they expect to win every game. The Steelers were, I think, the second favorite behind New England heading into this season. If they get healthy, if they have Ben Roethlisberger, if their guys come back and they're healthy and ready to play, then they shouldn't fear going on the road. They should be that good and be able to overcome being on the road. Right now, a little of that confidence gets shaken because they've been pummeled twice on the road. They lost without Ben Roethlisberger against New England, but I think a lot of people will give them a pass there. They've got to play better football on the road than they've played. If you want to be a Super Bowl contender, you need to do what New England does, which is go on the road. Everybody's gunning for you. You're everybody's defending champ, whether you're the defending champ or not. Everybody circles you on the schedule. And what does New England do? They go in and they kick some butt, and they chalk up a W, and they get back on a plane, and they fly back to Boston. So, the Steelers, they look like a team that's capable of doing that at times, and yet they've lost big on the road a couple of times, too. They've got to find some equilibrium in their game.
Rob King joining us here from Root Sports in Pittsburgh. All right, last thing, does Ben play on Sunday in your mind?
Oh, boy. I don't think so. It's just a wild guess. I mean, it is a huge game. Obviously for the Ravens, it's an important game for the Steelers. But look, if he's healthy enough and wants to go and thinks he can go, they will play him regardless of what they think about the outcome of the game. I don't think a lot of people say, well, why not save him for another week? If he's good enough to play, if he can go, he'll play. But I do think it's going to be close, and I think. I just have a hunch they may hold him out, but we'll see. I mean, obviously, they have a lot better chance of winning with him in the lineup.
Hey, man, always a pleasure to have you on, Rob. Appreciate the time. As always, we'll see you guys on Sunday as you bring yins and all that and all the black and gold and the little towels and all that into the stadium. We've had a little problem with that this year with Oakland and the Redskins, so many of us are expecting a little bit more color in the stadium than we're used to, quite frankly.
Thank you, Nestor.
See you soon. There he goes, Rob King from Root Sports in Pittsburgh. You can find me in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world, getting you ready for the Steelers and the Ravens this weekend from Pittsburgh here to Baltimore and all around the country, as well as World Series. Maryland taking on Michigan this week, so we'll have some good stuff from there as well. The morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. It is brought to you by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com. Still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life there. And last last but never least, any breaking news when the Orioles hire a pitching coach, you'll get it first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford Security Boulevard. And, of course, Dennis Kolatzis will be here on Thursday with the SSV on WNST. That's the Sunday Sports Voice. Now heard 3 until 5 on Thursday and driving you home. We're at Buffalo Wild Wings and Owings Mills every Monday night for our best seat in the house promotion, as well as our limo from Fully Loaded Transportation and the Blazing Wing Eating Challenge at halftime. Come on out, say hello, have a beer, have a snack, have some wings, have a salad, have a burger, eat some fries. It's fun. It's Monday Night Football. It's Buffalo Wild Wings and the best seat in the house. I'm Nestor. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube on our WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.